Let's bring in now Brent Podowski, opinion columnist for The Hill, and Ken Blackwell, former domestic policy advisor to the Trump transition team. You are my first Blackwell guest on the show, sir, and I just want to put a flag in that. Good to have you. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good to be with you.
Ken, let me start with you. If the president, as he has, imposed these sanctions in the context of national security, you got to protect the U.S. Steel and aluminum industry. He says if you don't have those, you don't have a country. How do you then create exemptions for Canada, for Mexico, which combined make up about 26% of steel imports into the U.S., and then add Australia to the list and potentially South Korea down the road? How do you make that argument?
Well, I think you make the argument that what you're trying to do is to focus in on punishing the major bad actors and to send a message to them. The original approach with a meat cleaver was too broad and counterproductive. As you know, Victor, I'm a free trader, and I had problems with the direction in which the president was going, and he engaged members of the conservative movement, champions of free markets, and at least we got him to tailor it to really bad actors who cause us major problems.
But how has he tailored it?
I'm pleased with the direction. Excuse me?
How has he tailored it?
Well, he's tailored it by, in fact, focusing in on the real principal bad actors in this case, and quite naturally, you know that's China.
Well, then go after China specifically. How bring in India?
And that's what that's what he's doing. He's moving to that sort of specificity. He, in fact, has worked with those folks who are our definite allies in terms of national security and trade.
Well, if it's going after
the Prime Minister said, it's reciprocal.
If it's going after China, then why not just go after China instead of making this argument about national security? It seems like you can't make both.
Well, again, you can. The reality is that he was elected president of the United States. He has a commerce secretary, and I can opine as much as I want to. In the final analysis, he has engaged major economic thinkers on this, and he's honed in on a strategy that both makes sense in terms of our national security and dealing with the principal bad actors, most notably China. But on the other hand, he has in fact embraced our allies who are so important to our national security.
All right, Brent, your take.
Bottom of my heart for not asking me about Stormy Daniels, since nude dancers and porn are outside of my expertise.
Stay with us, because the question is coming.
Now, to answer the question about trade, CNN is doing a wonderful series on the Kennedys that'll begin tonight, and I look forward to it as a Kennedy Democrat who's written 2 columns in The Hill praising Joe Kennedy, the congressman. I would advise the audience, look up the book, The Kennedy Tapes, by Phil Zelikow and Ernest Ney about President Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It is the best thing ever written about how to be a president. Donald Trump would profit from reading it. Kennedy mobilized our allies, while Trump attacks our allies, defames our allies, and creates fear from our allies. Kennedy stood up to dictators, while Trump praises a Chinese dictator at the moment he wants to be dictator for life, and he praises a Russian dictator as a strongman when he's attacking America and is being investigated now for murdering somebody in Britain. Those are outrages, and what Kennedy understood is the job of a leader is to unite our allies and mobilize our allies and not to declare trade wars that are half-baked against our allies. I'm not a free trader. I'm somewhere in the middle on that. But this idea, this ham-handed action of just blurting out because he has a bad day between firing his own people and his own people resigning, that we're going to do a trade war without the proper government channels, without doing the homework that presidents do, in a way that alienates our allies further and emboldens our dictator enemies more, is just the wrong way to be a president. Kennedy understood that.
Well,
Trump does not.
President Trump has said that trade wars can be good, although he says that he doesn't expect that this will turn into a trade war. Let's turn now to those porn stars and hush money that you mentioned just a moment ago there, Brent. And Ken, let me come to you. Do you believe the narrative that at least Michael Cohen, the White House is trying to stay out of it, but that Michael Cohen and the president's allies are selling, that somehow he got notice of this alleged affair and that Stormy Daniels wanted to tell her story? He didn't go and ask Donald Trump if it was true, if he could defend it, if he had proof that it did not happen. Instead, he went and took out a loan against his house, his mortgage, and just paid her, and didn't involve the Trump organization, didn't involve the president or the candidate then at all.
Brent is 66, I'm 70, and as that commercial says,
and the
we've
president
seen
is
a lot of
71.
things. And so from Marilyn Monroe and JFK, Brent's hero, to Bill Clinton and Lewinsky, the fact of the matter is that these tabloid stories detract from the agenda that the president is advancing, and that's why the White House is saying, look, let's focus on that agenda. Let's focus on a growing economy and Americans going back to work.
Of course,
let's
the White House would not want to focus on the idea that the president's personal attorney paid off a porn star.
Well, again, as was the case in the mid-90s, feminists had to strain to defend the behavior of Bill Clinton in the White House. They wanted to focus more on his agenda. And so those of us who, in fact, are concerned about the hollowing out of our military, and now the president is building it back up so it can address
this doesn't matter to you.
National security.
This doesn't matter to you.
I didn't say it. I'm saying that I'm more concerned about advancing an agenda that moves America forward and make it safe, and I'll let his attorney deal with the narratives that he's developing on some past behavior.
Okay, Brent.
And quite naturally, I think we all have to deal with the inconsistencies between what we profess to believe and hold as moral standards but also have to deal with the potential legality of a $130,000 in-kind donation to a campaign when, of course, the maximum is much lower than that. Brent, I need to give you... And they should handle that.
I hear you, sir. Brent, we're running low on time, but I need to let you respond to that.
Oh, I think that fundamentally, I'd like to know what Mr. Blackwell and what the conservative theologians who have made a career out of attacking liberals, not all of them, by the way, but some of them, what would they say if a black president had behaved like Donald Trump? And I'll tell you what they'd say. You'd have 5 congressional committees of Republicans investigating that black president, instead of making excuses, apologies, and evasions for Trump humiliating his wife, who should get an award for grace under pressure, putting up with this. It's just a disgrace.
Do you think it comes down that President Trump is white, not that he's a Republican?
I think there's a double standard. You bet there is.
Okay, Brent Brodowski, Ken Blackwell, thank you both.